Hey guys, how you all doing? And ting and ting and ting. And I'm back with another one and all of that, you know what I mean? And this one's called Is Ireland Still Catholic? Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. This one could create a whole lot of discussion. You understand what I'm saying? Thing with the history of what goes on there. So I ain't gonna keep you all for long. Let's go ahead and YouTube and simmer and see what the answer to this is, or what the purported answer is.
In a small pub in the west of Ireland, a local trad group are playing well into the night. This is a tradition that has been handed down through the generations and is still as strong as ever in Ireland. A few tunes, a pint of Guinness, and chatting with some friends. But while some traditions are being kept alive, the tide has been turning when it comes to other elements of Irish society.
I would consider myself a Catholic, but I don't practice it. I don't have time.
So I feel like I find things more important in life. I would consider myself agnostic. Fundamentally, it's probably the scandals that the Catholic Church has been involved in.
Eve, do you grow up Catholic?
I did.
Do you practice religion today?
No.
600 years ago, Franciscan friaries like this one behind me were the centres of power
beautiful,
across
man.
the island of Ireland. And as the centuries went on, the Catholic Church became part of the very fabric of life in Ireland. Ireland was known as one of the most Catholic countries in the world. But today, the Church in Ireland faces a very different type of reality.
Ooh, interesting. No, the reason why this is so interesting to me is because I was raised Catholic. Granted, I haven't been haven't been to mass since I was a teenager because I stopped going. I did first communion, but I didn't get confirmed. Mom used to call me a heathen child because everybody else was communal confirmed. The two older brothers and my sister all went through the whole rituals and stuff, but I was the last one and I didn't go through any. I just went through the communion. And but now I don't think any of us practice Catholicism. My brother back home is a Seventh-day Adventist. My sister, I think she just goes to any church up here. I'm not so sure she goes to a Catholic church. There's not a whole lot of Catholics per se in America. Where I am, like I haven't seen a nun or a priest in years. Like an actual Catholic nun or priest, I haven't seen one in years where I live. There's a Catholic school a block up this way there. And I still haven't seen a priest there. Like, there's a Catholic church right next to it. And I still haven't seen a priest. And I think it's because in America, for some reason, Catholics seem to be the rich ones. So the bourgeoisie, if you will, you know what I mean, for some reason. Because when I first came to America and I went to Southern Baptist College at first, and I told them I was Catholic, and they'd go, "Oh, you're one of the rich ones." And I was like, "What are you talking about? The Catholic schools on the island are the public schools." You know what I mean? There are no rich kids in there. It's the middle class kids and poorer kids and just kids in general. Everybody went to the same school pretty much. But let's see what's going on here with Ireland.
In the 1950s and 60s, it is estimated that almost 90% of the population of Ireland went to weekly mass. There was rarely an event or social gathering that didn't have a religious element. However, in 2021, a survey conducted by the Association of Catholic Priests found that only about 30% of Irish Catholics attend Mass on a weekly basis.
Wow.
But still, the latest census figures recorded that 78% of the population still identify as Catholic. To explore this, I went to County Monaghan and sat down with Father Owen Gorman. So why do you think it is that 78% of the population here claim to be Catholic, but when it comes to practicing, they don't? Why do they still identify as Catholic?
Yeah, I think the research in this indicates that
Irish people are now identifying with or living Catholicism in a different way. I suppose the older generation would have looked at being a Catholic as a person who they would have went to Mass, they would have went to confession quite regularly, they would have been to the local parish novena, so it tended to be very focused on church rituals of prayer and of sacraments. The new generation of Catholics don't necessarily identify with those rituals as strongly, but what they do identify with is living Catholicism in terms of social justice or social inclusion or just having a kind of a charity towards neighbour.
So the markers almost have changed.
Yes, they have, yeah.
As to what it means to be Catholic for some people in this country.
This generation tends to identify more with what we might call a horizontal kind of living of the faith. It's been good to other people. Older generations, more that vertical dimension, you know, is the worship.
For a country that was so Catholic, how did mass attendance and practice of religious faith drop off so dramatically? Bishop Alphonsus Cullihan is the Bishop of Waterford and Lismore.
It was a very devotional church. I wonder how deep it was theologically. Being a very clerical world, that holiness was associated with clerics and religious.
Was it too powerful?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was, there was too much of an emphasis on, there was a bad clericalism.
The Catholic Church did have an immensely positive impact on Irish society. In the 19th century, it set up a network of schools and universities across Ireland. And for the first time in Irish society, people from disadvantaged backgrounds could now get an education.
See, that's the same thing on the island. I went to a school called the St. George's Roman Catholic Boys School, you know, and then there was Mother Rose, and then there was a convent, and then there was Presentation Brothers College, and all these, you know, Catholic schools, you know what I mean? So the Catholic did a lot to, like, educate people, you know what I mean? And then again, the Catholic Church that I knew was very charitable. I don't know how charitable they are now. I definitely don't know how charitable they are in America. But I do know where I'm from, they were very charitable. They were also very in tune with struggling people, you know what I mean? Like people who are being oppressed by certain political movements and stuff. They were really in tune with that. You would see that like in South America. You know what I mean? Even in the Caribbean, in Grenada, for instance, a lot of the rumblings of our revolution back in 1979, a lot of the people went to the Catholic schools. The majority of them actually went to the Catholic schools, you know what I mean? The Catholics sort of embedded that sort of rebellion in people against systems or politicians or politics that they deem to be oppressive to the people. You know what I mean? Like I said in another video, like when with the Catholic church back home, the doors were always open. You would walk in there and there'd be like people just sitting in there. You know what I mean? It just seems like nowadays it's all locked up. You know, you can't just sit. I used to be able to just walk in the Catholic church, and I guess it's because I'm in a different country. I don't know if they still do it at home. The doors were wide open all the time. Every so often it was closed. Don't get me wrong, but most of the time doors were wide open, and you could just walk in there and go in there and sit down and find some peace as best you could among all these strange statues around you. You know what I mean? Let's get back to this here.
Many of the country's hospitals and clinics were founded by the church, homeless shelters, community groups, addiction centres, and so on.
True.
I've been very privileged in meeting religious who gave their lives, you know, to the education of young people.
Yep.
And to the care of the sick.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are many who simply have forgotten that now.
Oh, yeah.
The revelations of
That's
the Clyde
gone.
report have brought the government, Irish Catholics and the Vatican to an unprecedented juncture.
Forgotten or ignored because of anger after the so many stories broke of sexual abuse and cover-ups within the Catholic Church in Ireland. The stories that emerged were devastating.
It just destroyed the trust that people had in their priests and in their bishops. And, you know, when you lose trust, you know, it's very difficult just to get that to be regained. One priest said to me he no longer feels as if he has the authority to preach on moral matters anymore, because there was a lack of morality among certain priests who did criminal acts with children.
And when we talk about the abuse scandals that happened across Ireland, do you think the church did a good job in responding to
No.
that and helping the victims?
No.
I think, Colin, that the church was slow in responding. We have learned so much in the meantime. I think that now we really have a much, much more secure and safe place for children and for vulnerable adults.
Now, here's the question that I have to ask though. Wasn't there some point in history where the popes had little boys and stuff as their attendants, but everybody knew what they were doing? So, everybody, it's not a new thing. Everybody thinking, oh, this is just happening. Everybody's talking about these people that hurt kids as if it's something, new that's going on. At some point in society, unfortunately, and in some religions, it was accepted. It was just there. It was sort of implicitly accepted. In the Caribbean, I don't think anything like that will happen. At my island, I never heard anything like that happening because it's so small. You sneeze on the northern part of the island, within an hour, somebody know in the southern tip of the island that you sneeze. So if something like that had happened, there would have been like really, really big to do, real quick. Especially since when I was younger growing up, most of the priests were not native Grenadian. I mean, we had some Irish priests there, a lot of them, and then there was a nun, an older lady. I remember her well. I could see her now. She had a sort of misaligned jaw. She was Irish also, and but I didn't hear all about this. What they talk about the abuse and stuff until I came to America. Is when I heard all of that, and I wasn't privy to anything like that. Now. And this is a really silly story. One of the reasons why I started to go south on the Catholic Church, and quite frankly, if I had to go back to any religion, it would be Caribbean Catholicism. And I know I'm differentiating because I don't know how it is elsewhere, and I don't like what I see here. But one time I went to church with my mom, and she said I had to go to confession. I think that was the only time I ever did confession. And I was a good kid. Well, I thought so, So I went in there and I went into the confessional. The priest was like, "You have sinned," you know what I mean. So you have to confess your sins. And I'm like sitting there going, "Okay, I don't curse, I don't fight, I don't drink, I don't smoke," just surface stuff. I was a kid. I wasn't thinking deep of stuff that, or things that I could do that was sinful. And I was like, no, I haven't sinned, so why am I confessing the stuff I didn't do? And the priest was like, all God's children have sinned, son. You must have sinned, and he kept pressing and pressing. So I just let out an expletive and said, there, I sinned. Please forgive me. I didn't hear anything. I just heard a creak, and next thing I know, an arm comes in the confessional and yanked me out. It was my mom. He went and told my mom, boy, I got into so much trouble for just blotting out an expletive, because you got to understand, growing up, if you say, that's considered a curse word. You have to say, pardon me. So I got in so much trouble. That's when the downhill started to happen. And then my parents got divorced, and at the time, they sort of frowned on it down there, divorce. So that even pushed me out a little bit more, because my dad wasn't the very nicest person on the planet. You understand what I'm saying? Not the nicest person. So if you're not giving support, wow, that just brought back a memory to me there. Because I remember when I was a kid, I guess I was about 8 years old, and this goes back to the Catholic Church always being open. I remember when my dad came home and he was fighting with us, we would have to leave the house. And we went to the Catholic Church for refuge. Isn't that crazy? And then when the divorce happened, they were like, well, we don't agree with it, and blah, 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 blah. That's when I stopped going there. I mean, I just stopped. Anyway, let's get back to this here. That's just my outlook on what got me to start going. It wasn't the abuse and stuff. I didn't know about that until later on. But it's that kind of stuff that got me to start, as a Protestant would say, backsliding.
Sexual abuse crisis is a big part of the decline, but the numbers of young people practicing their faith had been declining before that.
Growing up in a smaller county, like I'm from Monaghan, there's such a lack of community.
In Dublin, the capital, I meet Ava and Maria, two members of Youth 2000, a community of young believers who organise retreats, talks and religious events. What is it, do you think, that is stopping so many young people from going to Mass and to church?
To be honest, I don't know. Like, there's a lack of faith in Ireland at the moment, and I'm not exactly sure why. I think it's partially laziness. People stopped going, and then people stopped seeing and realising what the Catholic faith was about, what you can actually get out of the Catholic faith, and how it helps and improves your life so much.
If the faith, let's say for you, has all these incredible things that you're talking about, and young people are smart, they're intelligent, why do you think so few are practicing their faith or are going to Mass then in Ireland?
I think they're misinformed. I think our shepherds, our priests are not preaching the truth. They think they're giving people what they want by a watered down Mass or a shorter homily, but like young people are craving the truth. They're craving a lot of it we're finding is they're craving tradition. They're craving what the church is.
Makes sense.
Christ be near but either hand, Christ behind, before me stand.
In rural parts of Ireland, there are still pockets of strong faith, like here in the parish of Mullahoran in County Cavan, where local school children are preparing for their confirmation.
Christ be in my heart and mind.
Oh wow, that brings back memories.
In my soul enshrined, Christ control my wayward heart, Christ abide and ne'er depart.
No, one of the girls said something that's very poignant there. There's no sense of community. And I think what sort of broke up the community feeling was all the scandals. It doesn't feel like a community anymore. You know what I mean? And like they said before, I remember growing up, and I don't know how it is on the island now because I haven't been there in a while. The Catholic Church was front and center to a lot of organized community actions. You know what I mean? A lot of things they organize, like beach outings and just stuff to bring the community together. I'm not so sure if they still do that. We have switched, and a lot of the message back then when I was growing up was love and peace and all of that. And I think the whole fire and brimstone thing that came in sort of overshadowed the peace and love that was being preached and kind of overpowered them. If that makes any sense. Correct me if I'm wrong. Hit me up in the comment section, because I'm speaking from my own perspective and my own experience, because like I said, I was born and raised Catholic.
Father P.J. Hughes is the local priest.
This is a country parish, and it has two churches, two fine churches.
And this is a farming area.
Oh, mostly farming, yeah. Farming is the biggest thing here, I suppose.
Father PJ remembers growing up in that Catholic Ireland, where faith was so central.
When I was growing up, we said the rosary every night. It was part and parcel of our life. It was the backbone of our life, our faith.
This is a St. Patrick's Day like no other.
In 2020, when COVID struck Ireland, the Irish government released health guidelines which ordered that all non-essential businesses and activities should close. Catholic churches were among those labelled non-essential, and in total were closed for 9 months. Father PJ made headlines when he refused to see churches as non-essential, and so refused to close his doors.
We are called to worship God. That's the first commandment, to love the Lord your God with all your heart and your soul. God is essential.
Did you have any support from within the Catholic Church here in Ireland?
There was maybe 3 priests who wrote to me
from the bishops or anything?
No, there was no support from that side. They were just saying that we had to obey the guidelines from the government. We were encouraged to close the church, and that's it.
Father PJ received huge support from the public, but the lack of fight to have the churches kept open from the bishops is something that some say reflects a bigger problem in the hierarchy of the church in Ireland.
The energy is in low supply, and the reason is that we live in a church in Ireland where a lot of the priests now are elderly priests. They put in huge amount of service. We're in a sense an old army. You know, we're an old army. You need youthful vigor in order to launch new evangelizations, new projects and all of that. We're probably more a church better at maintaining things as they are, a church of maintenance, rather than a church of mission.
In years gone by, Ireland was once known for sending young missionary priests and nuns across Africa and all over the world.
Yep.
But today, the average age of a priest in Ireland is 70. And to try and combat this, missionary priests have been coming from places like Africa and India.
It's not going to be the whole solution to the problem, because every local church has to bear the fruit of religious vocations. Part of the reason of that is undoubtedly the decline of faith within families.
There are beacons of hope for the church in Ireland, with small initiatives being established in various parts of the country, focusing on young people who are already in their faith. The Holy Family Mission in County Waterford is one of them.
This is Holy Family Mission. This is a place that was founded 7 years ago for young Catholics. And it's just a place where young Catholics between the ages of 18 and 30 who are in the faith come and, I suppose, produce a generation of young people to lead the renewal of the church, and who are really just grounded in what the church believes. They basically take a gap year for God.
A gap year for God. The idea is that young people come for personal and spiritual formation, with daily rosary, mass, and a space for them to learn more about their faith. As a young Catholic in Ireland today,
tell me, this is a word that I'm assuming there's some Irish Catholics watching this video here. There's a word that my mom used to say all the time. The rosary, which I do believe is the beads and stuff with the cross on it. She used to call it a chaplet. Is that a word that was used in Ireland? A chaplet? Comment down below, let me know.
Hey, Michael, how do you feel about the state of your faith, the Catholic Church in Ireland?
I am actually really hopeful. And I'm not just saying that, I am really hopeful, because I believe that we are few in number, the Catholics, solidly in the faith, particularly young Catholics. And I think, when you look, into stories from the Bible, you see how God uses just a remnant, a small number of people, to actually spearhead this renewal of faith, or to convert a whole town or village, So he works from a few the whole time.
I'm in a basement, and the only way in was a trapdoor which was under the table.
Here at the Holy Family Mission House, there are people from all over Ireland, but also abroad as well, like Teresa Janis from the USA. So as an outsider looking in, as if it were, when you're talking to other young Irish Catholics, what sense do you get from them?
It's been interesting, because a lot of people talk about the church in Ireland as being really dead. But it's interesting, because I've found that there are actually a lot of pockets of very vibrant faith. I've actually found a ton of people who are super on fire for the Lord, but they're going to be kind of few and far between.
Few and far between. That is what most young Catholics in Ireland now accept as how their community will be spread out.
Wow.
What do you think is going to be the future of the Catholic Church in Ireland?
Well, I can see the numbers dwindling, especially in the younger people, but I can also see how fulfilling it is for younger people, for people who really realise what the Catholic faith is about. So it's kind of hard to know what'll happen.
So I think there's going to be little bonfires. When I envision it, I see a map of Ireland, and I see, rather than a whole country set aflame, I see little bonfires all around the place. And in those areas, people are strong.
This class is going to make their confirmation this year.
Well, where do you see hope when you look to the future of the Catholic Church in Ireland?
Eternal life is our hope. As we get older, as people get older, they become more in tune with that, and they see that no matter how hard I try to make a life for myself, without God, there is no life.
If you had to project into the future and take a guess as to what the Catholic Church in Ireland will look like in 10 years' time.
I think, Colm, it will always come down to personal holiness. That's number one. Am I an authentic disciple of Jesus Christ? Things then flow from that. But I think it will be more authentic, and in a way it will be beginning again, starting again. There is a hole in the human heart which only God can fill. No matter what happens, Christ is the answer. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And the human heart will search here, there, and everywhere for meaning. But it will always come back to Him.
In Ireland, Colm Flynn, EWTN News in Depth.
Okay, that was quite interesting. Comment down below what you all think. I mean, I think religion as a whole is sort of dwindling, and I don't think it's a lack of faith in a higher power. It's a lack of faith in the people who say they represent the higher power. You know what I mean? Like, I believe there's a higher power. I just don't trust most of the people who proclaim to be spokespeople for said higher power, especially with the politicizing of religion. Especially that. Because if you politicize it, then you're going to nitpick what you want to fit your own worldview as to what people should adhere to. And then the parts you don't want, you just leave out. I see that happen a lot, just simply talking to people who believe here. Whatever part they want to use to manipulate you or get you to do what they want, they're going to use it. But they're going to leave out the part that gives you any kind of power in yourself. You know what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense. Comment down below. Tell me what you think. And I really enjoyed watching this. This was a really good watch. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it too. And hey, I'm going to leave a link in the description to this video. You could go check it out. I'll also leave links to other videos on Ireland so you can keep watching. It's pretty interesting, you know what I mean? And in the meantime, you all take care of each other, all right? Cool runnings.